The Ramayana. Translated into English prose from the original Sanskrit of Valmiki. Edited and published by Manmatha Nath Dutt, 1891. Ramayana. Bala Kanda. Section 51. Hearing the narration of the intelligent Viswamitra, Gautama's eldest son, the exceedingly energetic Satnanda of rigid austerities, highly effulgent by virtue of his asceticism, with his downstanding on end wondered greatly at the sight of Rama. And seeing the king's sons seated at their ease, he said unto that foremost of ascetics, Viswamitra, O most powerful of anchorets, by thee was my illustrious mother, grown old in asceticism, shown unto the king's son. Did my famous and exalted mother entertain with the produce of the woods Rama worthy of every one's homage? And, O highly energetic one, hath that old story relative to my mother having been wronged by that celestial, been communicated unto Rama? And, O Kaushika, good betide thee, hath my mother, in consequence of beholding Rama, been united with my revered sire? And, O son of Kusika, hath the highly energetic Rama come hither, after having been rendered homage by my high-souled revered sire? And, O Kusika's son, was my revered sire of quiescent soul, saluted by Rama when he arrived there? Hearing those words of his, the mighty ascetic Viswamitra, skilled in speech, replied unto Satnanda, cognizant of words, saying, O best of ascetics, nothing necessary was omitted by me, but everything hath been done. And the ascetic's wife hath been united with him, even as Renuka with Bhrigu's son. Hearing the speech of the intelligent Viswamitra, the exceedingly energetic Satnanda said unto Rama, Art thou welcome, O chief of men? It is by our luck that, O descendant of Raghu, thou hast come unto us, headed by the respected Maharshi Viswamitra. This highly energetic Viswamitra, this Brahmarshi is of prowess measureless, and deeds inconceivable, by virtue of his asceticism. Him thou knowest as the prime way. O Rama, there existeth on this earth not one that is more fortunate than thyself. Thy protector is even Kusika's descendant, by whom mighty austerities have been performed. Do thou listen as I faithfully describe unto thee the ascetic power of the high-souled Kaushika. Do thou listen unto me relating this. This righteous one was for a long time a king, subduing his enemies, cognizant of morality, accomplished, and intent upon the welfare of his subjects. And there was a king named Kusa, the son of Prajapati. And Kusa's son was the powerful and pious Kusnabha. And Kusnabha's son was Gadi. And Gadi's son is the highly energetic and mighty ascetic Viswamitra who ruled the earth. And that king reigned for thousands of years. And it came to pass that once with his fourfold forces marshalled, he set out for ranging the earth. And the king went on by turns ranging cities and kingdoms, rivers and mountains and asylums. And at length that foremost of conquerors, the mighty Viswamitra, came upon Vasishtha's asylum furnished with various blossoming plants and trees, abounding in animals, inhabited by Siddhas and Charanas, graced by celestials and Danvas and Gandhabas and Kinnaras, and filled with mild deer, frequented by the feathered tribes, crowded with Brahmarshis, with Devarshis inhabiting it, teeming with high-souled ones of accomplished ascetic success and resembling fire, like another region of Brahma, graceful, and adorned on all sides with high-souled saints and Valkilyas and Vakanasas resembling Brahma, feeding on water or air, or living on withered leaves, or subsisting on fruits and roots, and self-controlled, and free from faults, and of vanquished senses, and engaged in reciting mantras and performing homas. Section 52. Upon seeing that for most of those reciting mantras, the highly powerful and heroic Viswamitra, exceedingly delighted, bowed unto him in humility. And having inquired as to the pleasantness of Viswamitra's journey, the high-souled and adorable Vasishtha ordered a seat for the former, and on the intelligent Viswamitra having been seated, that best of ascetics properly entertained him with fruits and roots. And having accepted Vasishtha's hospitality, that foremost of monarchs, the exceedingly energetic Viswamitra, then inquired of Vasishtha as to the welfare of his asceticism, his Agnihotras, and his disciples, and his trees. Thereupon Vasishtha communicated the welfare of all unto that best of kings. Then Brahma's son, Vasishtha, of fierce austerities the best of those reciting mantras, asked Viswamitra, seated at his ease, saying, O king, is it well with thee? And, O king, dost thou rule thy subjects, pleasing them consistently with royal duties? And, O virtuous one, are thy retainers maintained on salaries from the kingdom? Do they abide by thy mandates? And, O destroyer of foes, hast thou vanquished thy enemies? And, O represser of foes, is it well with thee as to, O most powerful of men, thy forces, exchequer, and friends, and, O sinless one, sons and grandsons? Thereupon, the highly powerful king, Viswamitra, with humility communicated unto Vasishtha his complete welfare. And having conversed for a long time, those virtuous ones, experiencing exceeding joy, ministered unto each other's delight. Then, O descendant of Raghu, after the conversation had ended, the adorable Vasishtha, smiling, addressed Viswamitra, saying, O highly powerful one, I desire to properly entertain thee of immeasurable power, as well as thy forces. Do thou, therefore, accept my hospitality. Do thou receive the hospitality which I extend unto thee. O king, thou art the foremost of guests, and art worthy of assiduous homage. Being thus addressed by Vasishtha, that mighty ascetic, King Viswamitra, said, Even by this word of thine relative to receiving me, hast thou in fact done so. And, O worshipful one, even with the fruits and roots that are in thy asylum, with the water for washing my feet, and for sipping, yea, with the sight of thy revered self, have I been, O profoundly wise one, excellently entertained by thee, who art thyself worthy of homage. I bow unto thee. I will go now. Do thou regard me with a friendly eye. As the king was speaking thus, the righteous soul and generous Vasishtha again and again pressed him to accept his hospitality. Then Gada's son answered Vasishtha, Very well. O potent ascetic, let that be which findeth favor in thy sight. This having been said by him, Vasishtha, the best of those reciting mantras, joyfully called his sacrificial dappled cow, whose sins had been washed away, O Savala. Do thou come soon, and hear my words. I intend to entertain this royal saint together with his forces. Do thou enable me to entertain him, by yielding excellent viands. And, O divine one, O thou that conferrest everything that is desired, do thou grant everyone whatever he asketh among edibles impregnated with the 6 tastes. And do thou, O Savala, speedily create sapid viands to be chewed, sucked, licked or drunk. Section 53. Thus addressed by Vasishtha, that bestower of all that was desired, Savala, O destroyer of thy foes, brought forth everything that was desired by everyone. And she produced sugar canes, and honey, and fried rice, and excellent marayas, and costly drinks, and various viands, and heaps of warm rice resembling hills, and other kinds of edibles, and soups, and dadhikulyas together with silver plates by thousands filled with meats of diverse tastes. And, O Rama, that army of Viswamitra consisting of cheerful and stout men being superbly entertained by Vasishtha, became exceedingly gratified. And the royal saint, Viswamitra himself, together with the priests and Brahmanas and the inmates of the inner apartment, was also heartily filled. And being hospitably entertained with his courtiers and counsellors and retainers, he, exceedingly delighted, spoke unto Vasishtha, saying, Received and excellently entertained have I been by thee, O Brahmana, who thyself art worthy of being honored. Do thou, O thou conversant with speech, listen to me. I will tell thee a word. Do thou bestow on me Savala for 100,000 kin. O worshipful one, verily this one is a jewel, and as it is the function of kings to acquire jewels, do thou confer on me Savala, for, O twice born one, this one by right belongs unto me. Thus addressed by Viswamitra the righteous and adorable Vasishtha, best of ascetics, replied unto that Lord of earth, O king, neither for 100,000 nor for 100 koti of kin, nor yet for heaps of silver, will I part with Savala. O subduer of enemies, this one deserves not to be separated from my side. Even like unto the fame of the mighty, this Savala is ever joined with me. My oblations to the gods and the Pitris as well as my subsistence itself are established even in her. And my Agnihotras, Vali, and Homas depend upon her, and, O royal saint, my Swakaras and Vashakaras, as well as my various lore depend upon her. All this is so, there is no doubt about it. Verily she is my all, and in her do I find my delight. And many are the reasons, O king, why I cannot give unto thee Savala. Thus addressed by Vasishtha, that one versed in speech, Viswamitra, eagerly rejoined, I shall confer upon thee 14,000 elephants decked in gold chains and gold neck ornaments and hooks, and I will confer upon thee 800 golden cars furnished with bells and each yoked with 4 white horses, and, O thou of auspicious woes, I will confer upon thee 1,010 high-mettled horses of noble breeds, and I will confer upon thee a koti of youthful and variegated kin. Do thou grant unto me Savala, and as much of gems and gold, O best of regenerate ones, as thou wilt ask for, shall I bestow upon thee. Do thou grant me Savala. Thus besought by the intelligent Viswamitra, that adorable one replied, saying, O king, Savala I will not by any means give. This is verily my jewel, this is verily my riches, this is verily my all, this is verily my subsistence, and this is my dasa and this my purnamasa, and this my various sacrifices with dakshinas and, O king, this my various rites. This, O king, is without doubt, the root of all my rights. And what need of dilating? This one bestowing everything that is desired will I not part with. Section 54. When the ascetic Vasishtha would not part with the cow of plenty, then Viswamitra, O Rama, forced Savala away, and, O Rama, carried away by that high-souled king, Savala, stricken with grief and afflicted with sorrow, bethought herself, weeping, have I been forsaken by the high-souled Vasistha that the royal retainers carry me off thus aggrieved? What wrong have I done unto that mighty ascetic of concentrated spirit, that, knowing me to be faultless, that righteous one leaveth her that was devoted unto his service. Revolving this in her mind and sighing again and again, she darted on for where the preeminently energetic Vasishtha was, and defeating those servants of the king, she with the speed of the wind, appeared at the feet of that high-souled one. And weeping Savala, having the voice of clouds, standing before Vasishtha, spoke in distressful accents, O Brahma's son, wherefore have I been forsaken by thee, that the servants of the king were carrying me from off thy presence? Thus addressed the Brahmarsha said these words unto that one aggrieved, and of heart afflicted with sorrow, and like unto a sister, O Savala, not that I forsake thee, nor hast thou done me any wrong. But this mighty king proud of his prowess hath been carrying thee away. Surely, my strength is not equal to his. More specially, he is a king, a powerful king, more particularly, this day he should not be slain by me, inasmuch as he is my guest, he is a Kshatriya and lord of earth. And he is foremost in might by virtue of possessing this entire Akshohini abounding in elephants and horses and cars and standards, and pennons on elephants. Thus addressed by Vasishtha, that one cognizant of words humbly said in reply unto that Brahmarshi of incomparable power, the might of the Kshatriyas is not great, the Brahmanas are more mighty than they. O Brahmana, superhuman is the power of the Brahmanas, excelling that of the Kshatriyas. Thy power is immeasurable, and the exceedingly energetic Viswamitra is not as powerful as thyself. Thy energy is unequaled. O highly energetic one, do thou command me bursting with Brahma forces, the pride, power and endeavors of that wicked one will I bring down. Thus accosted by her, the highly famous Vasishtha, or Rama, said, Create thou forces capable of crushing the forces of the enemy. Hearing those words of his, Suravi created an army. And, O king, Pahlavas by hundreds brought into being by her lowing, began even in Viswamitra's sight to commit havoc upon his forces. Thereat, exceedingly angered, with eyes expanded in ire, that king commenced to slay the Pahlavas with various weapons. And beholding the Pahlavas by hundreds afflicted by Viswamitra, she again created grim-visaged Sargas mixed Yavnas. And the field became thronged with the Sargas mixed with Yavnas, of dazzling splendor, exceedingly fierce resembling golden filaments, bearing sharp scimitars and adzes, and clad in yellow apparel. And that entire host, of Viswamitra, was being consumed by them like unto flaming fires. Then the exceedingly powerful Viswamitra hurled weapons at them, and with these the Yavnas, Kamvas and Vavaras became sore afflicted. Section 55. And beholding them sore harassed, and overwhelmed by Viswamitra's weapons, Vasishtha directed, Savala, saying, O cow of plenty, do thou create fresh troops through thy yoga power. And from her roar, there came into being Kamvojas, resembling the sun. And from her udders sprang Vavaras, arms in hand, and from her mysterious parts, Yavnas, from her anus, Sargas, and from the pores of her skin, those barbarians, Haritas and Kiratas. And, O descendant of Raghu, anon Viswamitra's entire host consisting of foot, and elephant, and horse, and car, was exterminated by them. And seeing the army annihilated by the high-souled Vasishtha, the 100 sons of Viswamitra, equipped with various weapons, rushed in high ire against that best of mantra-reciting ones. Thereupon, uttering a roar, that mighty ascetic consumed them quite. And in a moment, Viswamitra's sons together with horse and car and foot were reduced to ashes by the high-souled Vasishtha. and witnessing them all destroyed, together with the army, the illustrious Viswamitra, covered with shame, became plunged in thought, and like unto a tideless ocean or a fangless snake, he instantly became shorn of his effulgence, like unto the sun overwhelmed by Rahu, and deprived of his forces and sons, he appeared like a bird bereft of its wings, and losing his entire army and with it the high spirits that it had inspired him with, his heart died within him. Then entrusting one of his remaining sons with the sovereignty, saying, "Do thou rule the earth agreeably to the duties of the Kshatriya," he went into the forest, and repairing to the side of the Himamvat inhabited by kinnaras and serpents, that one of mighty asceticism began to perform austerities with the view of propitiating Mahadev. And on a certain occasion that Lord of the Celestials, Vrishadwaja, intending to confer a boon, appeared before the mighty ascetic Viswamitra. "What for, O king, art thou performing penance? Do thou unfold what thou hast to say. I am for conferring a boon, do thou express what boon thou wouldst obtain." Thus addressed by that god, that performer of mighty austerities, Viswamitra, bowing down unto him, addressed him, saying, "If, O mighty God, thou art pleased with me, do thou confer upon me the science of archery with all its mysteries and mantras, as well as its virtues of helping from far and near. And, O sinless one, may all those weapons that are with the celestials and the Danvas and the Maharshis and the Gandhabas and the Yakshas and the Rakshas shine on me. May this my desire be granted me through thy grace, O God of gods." Thereupon, saying, "Be it so," the Lord of the Celestials vanished. And obtaining the alms from the Lord of the Celestials, the mighty Viswamitra, naturally haughty, became swelled with insolence, and surcharged with energy, like unto the sea during the equinox. He considered, O Rama, as if that foremost of saints, Vasishtha, was already slain. And repairing to Vasishtha's asylum, the king began to discharge weapons, capable of burning down the hermitage. And beholding those weapons discharged by the intelligent Viswamitra, the ascetics, overtaken by fear, by hundreds began to fly. And Vasishtha's disciples as well as the animals and birds inhabiting there, fled in all directions by thousands. And for a time the hermitage of the high-souled Vasishtha was bare of living beings, and still like unto a wilderness, though Vasishtha cried again and again, "Do not fear. Today will I slay Goddess sun, even as the sun destroys mist." Having said this, that best of mantra reciting ones, Vasishtha, in high wrath, addressed Viswamitra, saying, "Since, O fool, thou hast destroyed this hermitage that had been prospering for a long time, thou of execrable ways shalt not live long." Saying this, he, transported with wrath, and like unto the smoking flame at universal dissolution, speedily upraised a staff resembling another make of Yam itself. Section 56. Thus addressed by Vasishtha, the mighty Viswamitra, aiming a fiery weapon, said, "Stay, stay." The worshipful Vasishtha also on his part, raising a Brahma staff resembling another staff of Kala, exclaimed in wrath, "Wretch of a Kshatriya, here am I, do thou display the might thou art master of. Today, O goddess son, will I humble thy pride of arms. Thou disgrace of thy race, where is thy Kshatriya might, and where my high Brahma energy? Do thou behold my superhuman Brahma energy." And even as water allayeth the fierceness of a flame, the Brahma staff quenched the energy of the powerful fiery weapon discharged by Goddess sun. Then Goddess sun, waxing wroth, discharged Varuna and Roidra and Indra and Pasupata and Ashika weapons. And Manva, and Mohana, and Gandhaba, and Swapana, and Jrimbana, and Mohana, and Santapna, and Vilpana, and Soshana, and Daruna, and Vajra hard to baffle, and Brahmapsha, and Kalpeha and Varunapasha, and Pinaka, favorite of Shiva, and the two asanas, wet and dry, and the Danda weapon, and Peshacha, and the Kroncha weapon, and Dharmachakra, and Kalachakra, and Vishuchakra and Vayavya, and Matna, and the Harashras weapon, and the twin Saktis, hurled he, and Kankala, and Mushala, and the mighty weapon Vidyadra, and the terrible Kala weapon, and the dreadful Trisula weapon, and Kapala, and Kankana, all these weapons hurled he, Viswamitra, at that best of mantra reciting ones, O descendant of Raghu. And it was wonderful to behold. But Brahma's son baffled all those by means of his staff. And on those weapons, being resisted, the son of Gadi hurled a Brahma weapon. And on that weapon being discharged, the deities with Agni at their head, and the Devarshis, and the Gandhabas, and the mighty serpents, became afflicted with fear. And on that Brahma weapon being discharged, all the three worlds became exceedingly alarmed. And, O Raghu's descendant, Vasishtha by virtue of his Brahma energy completely baffled that terrible Brahma weapon. And when the high-souled Vasishtha had baffled the Brahma weapon, his form became fierce and terrible, capable of striking terror into the three worlds. And from the pores of his body, resembling a smoking flame, darted out scintillations of fire. And resembling another staff of Yam, the Brahma staff raised by Vasishtha's arm flamed like unto the smokeless fire at the universal dissolution. Then the ascetics in a body fell to eulogizing that best of mantra reciting ones, Vasishtha, saying, Thy might, O Brahmana, is infallible. Do thou reign in the Brahma energy by thy own. O Brahmana, Viswamitra of mighty strength hath been subdued by thee. Infallible is thy extraordinary might. Let the creatures now be relieved from their distress. Thus addressed, that highly energetic one of rigid austerities, became pacified. And Viswamitra, being put down, heaving a sigh, said, Fie upon the Kshatriya might, the strength begot of Brahma energy, is might indeed. By one Brahma staff hath all my weapons been put to the rout. Beholding this, I with a placid mind and senses will engage in mighty austerities, which shall earn for me Brahmanahug. Section 57. When with his heart burning, in consequence of the remembrance of his humiliation, and having made enemies with that high-souled one, Viswamitra of mighty asceticism sighing, went towards the south, in company with his queen, and became engaged in dreadful austerities, or Raghava. And subsisting on fruits and roots, and restraining his senses, he performed the most rigid austerities. And 4 sons engaged in observing truth and duty, Havishpand, Madhushpand, Drihanetra, and Mahatha, were born unto him. And when 1,000 years had been completed, the grandsire of all, Brahma, addressed the ascetic, Viswamitra in sweet words, saying, O son of Kusika, the regions of the Rajarshis have been won by thee through thy austerities. And on account of this thy asceticism, we recognize thee as a Rajarshi. Having said this, the highly energetic prime lord of all creatures went to the celestial regions in company with the celestials. Hearing this, Viswamitra, hanging down his head from shame and possessed by a mighty sorrow, said, in piteous accents, I have performed rigid austerities, Yet the deities and the saints recognize me only as a Rajarshi. I do not consider the fruit of my asceticism as gained. Ascertaining this in his mind, that righteous and highly composed one of high austerities, O Kakustha, again engaged in penances. And, O Raghava, it came to pass that at this time, that enhancer of Ikshvaku's line, the celebrated and truthful Trishanku of subdued sense made up his mind, saying, I will perform a sacrifice, and in body win the prime way of the celestials. And summoning Vasishtha, he unfolded his mind unto him. And on the high-souled Vasishtha saying, I am incapable of doing this, and disregarded by the latter, the king went towards the southern quarter. And with the view of securing success to his endeavors, the king repaired to where Vasishtha's sons had for a long time been performing austerities. And the highly energetic Trishanku saw the 100 exceedingly effulgent sons of Vasishtha engaged in austerities with fixed faculties. And approaching all those high-souled sons of his spiritual guide, and paying them reverence, he, hanging down his head from shame, with clasped hands, addressed those mighty spirits, saying, I seek protection of ye, and I take refuge in ye capable of conferring it. Disregarded have I been, good betide ye, by the high-souled Vasishtha. I have set my heart upon celebrating a mighty sacrifice, it behoveth ye to command me. And, with the view of propitiating ye, I, lowly bowing down my head, beseech the sons of my spiritual guide, Brahmanas ever staying by asceticism, do ye with collected minds officiate in this sacrifice, so that success may be secured unto me, and that in body I may attain the regions of the celestial. Disregarded by the ascetic Vasishtha, other way find I none, ye anchorets, except the sons of my spiritual guide. To the Ikshvakus, their preceptor is their prime way. Section 58. Hearing Trishanku's speech, the 100 sons of the saint, O Rama, excited by wrath, said these words unto the king, disregarded hast thou been, O thou of perverse understanding, by our truth-telling sire, why, then, having passed him by, do thou seek for others' help? To the Ikshvakus, their spiritual guide is their prime way, nor art thou capable of setting at naught the words of that truth-telling one. That worshipful saint said that he was incapable of accomplishing this. How can we then undertake that sacrifice? Thou art ignorant, O foremost of men. Do thou speedily retrace thy steps. And, O king, that adorable one is competent to officiate at the sacrifice itself of the three worlds. How can we then contribute to his dishonor? Hearing those words of theirs, that king, with accents tremulous with passion, again addressed them, saying, disregarded by that worshipful one as well as by the sons of my spiritual guide, I will go after another way, so peace be unto ye, ascetics. The saints' sons, on their part, hearing that speech couching a fierce intent, cursed him in exceeding wrath, saying, Thou shalt come by Chandalahood. Having said this, those high-souled ones entered each into his dwelling. And when the night had gone by, the king came by Chandalahood, and clad in a blue garb, blue and rough of person, having a short head of hair, wearing a garland composed of materials culled from a cemetery, his body bedaubed with ashes from the same quarter, he was decked out with iron ornaments. And, O Rama, beholding him in the guise of a Chandala, his counselors as well as followers, renouncing him, fled in a body. And, O Kakustha, maintaining himself in patience, the monarch burning day and night, all alone went unto the ascetic Viswamitra. And beholding the disappointed king in the guise of a Chandala, the ascetic O Rama, was touched with pity. And from commiseration, that preeminently pious and exceedingly energetic one said unto that king frightful to behold, saying, Good betide thee, O heroic lord of Ayodhya, thou hast fallen into Chandalahood through a curse. What is the purpose of thy coming, O highly powerful prince? Hearing him, the king conversant with words, fallen into Chandalahood, with folded hands, said unto that one versed in speech, Disregarded had I been by my spiritual guide as well as his sons. And far from attaining my desire, I came by this calamity. O thou of placid presence, I had desired to repair unto heaven in body. By me have 100 sacrifices been performed, but yet do I not obtain the fruit thereof. I have never before told an untruth, and I swear by my Kshatriya morality, that albeit fallen on evil days, I will never do so in future, O gentle one. And sacrifices I have celebrated many, and I have ruled my people in righteousness, and I have pleased my preceptors by my character and conduct. But, O best of ascetics, now endeavoring to do my duty and intending to perform a sacrifice, I have failed in enlisting the good graces of my spiritual guides. Therefore do I consider destiny as supreme, and action as nothing. Destiny overtaketh all, destiny is the prime way. Therefore it behoveth thee to grant thy favor unto me extremely distressed, who crave thy favor, and, good betide thee, whose endeavors have been baffled by destiny. Other way will I wend none, nor is there any other refuge for me. It behoveth thee to meet destiny with exertion. Section 59. When the king had spoken thus, Kusika's son, moved with pity, said these sweet words unto the king who had undergone Chandalahood, O descendant of Ikshvaku, hast thou had a pleasant journey? I know thee well, O highly virtuous one. Refuge will I grant thee, so fear not, O best of monarchs. I shall summon all the pious Maharshis, who shall assist at the sacrifice, O king, and then thou wilt be able to accomplish thy purpose easily. And should the guise thou hast come by in virtue of thy preceptor's curse cling to thee yet, thou wilt bodily repair unto heaven in this form. And since appearing before Kusika's son, thou hast taken his refuge, I consider heaven, O Lord of men, as if within thy grasp. Having said this, that exceedingly energetic one ordered his highly virtuous and profoundly wise sons to provide the sacrificial necessaries. And summoning his disciples, he said, Do ye by my command bring hither all the saints together with Vasishtha's sons, and our friends and their disciples and the family priests variously versed in lore. And should any summoned by my mandate say aught, do ye fully represent unto me the expression of slight. Hearing his speech, they set out in different directions, and Brahmavadis began to pour in from various countries. And the disciples of Viswamitra, returning, fully communicated unto that ascetic of flaming energy the words of the Brahmavadis, saying, Hearing thy message, the regenerate ones resident in every part will come hither, and some have already arrived, all save Mahodaya and the 100 sons of Vasishtha. Do thou, O foremost of ascetics, listen to the words that they said with accents tremulous with emotion. How can celestials and saints partake of offerings in the court of him that in addition to being a Chandala, hath for his priest a Kshatriya? And how can high-souled Brahmanas, patronized by Viswamitra, attain to heaven, having partaken of a Chandala's fare? These cruel words, O powerful ascetic, did Vasishtha's sons together with Mahodaya, utter with reddened eyes. Hearing those words of theirs, that foremost of ascetics, with eyes reddened in anger, wrathfully cried, "Since blameless as I am, those wicked-minded ones censure me practicing fierce austerities, they shall, without doubt, be reduced to ashes." And this very day, bound by the news of Kala, meeting with destruction at the hands of Vivaswata's son, they shall for 700 births range these worlds, procuring dead men's clothes, always feeding on dog's flesh, going by the name of Mushtikas, void of abhorrence, and of frightful, distorted forms and foul practices. And wicked Mahodaya also hath blamed me, although undeserving of blame, therefore, reproved of all, he shall undergo nishthahood. And becoming cruel and engaged in taking life, he shall through my ire fare wretchedly for a long lapse of time. Having uttered this in the assembly of saints, that mighty ascetic, the highly powerful Viswamitra of fierce asceticism paused. Section 60. And knowing, by virtue of his yoga power, Vasishtha's sons together with Mahodaya as destroyed in consequence of his ascetic energy, the highly powerful Viswamitra said in the midst of the saints, "This descendant of Ikshvaku, the famous Trishanku, is virtuous and munificent and hath taken refuge in me, with the view of attaining the celestial regions in his own person. Therefore do thou engage with me in the sacrifice, so that he may bodily repair unto heaven." Hearing Viswamitra's words, the pious Maharshis readily spoke in harmony with duty, saying, "This descendant of Kusika is a highly irascible ascetic, therefore what he saith should, without doubt, be performed. The worshipful one is like unto fire, and, if angered, may curse us. Therefore, let us engage in this sacrifice, so that Ikshvaku's descendant through the potency of Viswamitra may repair unto heaven in person. Then let us engage in this sacrifice." Saying this, the sages entered upon the ceremony, and in that sacrifice the highly energetic Viswamitra acted as the priest. And Ritvijas versed in mantras performed everything in order with mantras, in accordance with scripture and prescription. Then after a long time, Viswamitra of mighty austerities invoked thither all the celestials for receiving their respective shares, but the deities did not come to receive them. Thereupon, getting into a wrath, the mighty ascetic Viswamitra, lifting up a ladle, wrathfully spoke unto Trishanku, "O Lord of men, do thou witness the prowess of my self-earned asceticism. I shall by dint of my asceticism take thee bodily unto heaven. And, O King, do thou in person repair unto heaven hard to attain. Something yet remains in me of the self-earned fruit of my asceticism, and, O King, through the energy of that asceticism, do thou repair unto heaven in person." And on the ascetic saying this, O Kakutstha, that Lord of men bodily ascended heaven in the very sight of the anchorets. And beholding Trishanku risen to heaven, the subduer of Paka together with all the celestials said, "O Trishanku, turn thee back. Thou hast not earned abode in heaven. O fool, thou hast been blighted by the curse of thy spiritual guide. Do thou therefore drop down headlong." The great Indra having spoken thus, Trishanku fell down, crying unto the ascetic Viswamitra, "Save me, save me." Thereupon, hearing his distressful cries, Kaushika waxed mightily wroth, and exclaimed, "Stay, stay." And in the midst of the ascetics, like unto another Prajapati, he created other 7 rishis on the southern way, and also, overwhelmed with wrath, created another set of stars. And Khalid with passion, that illustrious one in the midst of the ascetics, created another system of stars in the southern direction. and, saying, I will create another Indra, or the world, that I create, shall be without an Indra. And in anger, he went the length of creating celestials. Thereupon, in trepidation, the saints and the celestials and the asuras humbly addressed the high-souled Viswamitra thus, This king, O highly exalted one, hath been visited with the curse of his preceptor, therefore, O ascetic, he deserves not to ascend heaven in person. Hearing those words of theirs, that best of anchorets, Kaushika, in company with the celestials, said these pregnant words, Good betide ye, I have vowed unto this king, Trishanku's bodily ascension unto heaven, therefore, I dare not falsify my vow. Let Trishanku evermore dwell in heaven in person, and let these stars created by me verily endure as long as the worlds. This it behoveth ye gods, to ordain. Thus addressed, the deities answered that best of ascetics, saying, So be it, good betide thee. All these innumerable stars, O foremost of anchorets, shall remain in the firmament outside the path of Vashvanara, and shining in their splendor, Trishanku shall dwell with bended head, like unto an immortal. And all these luminous bodies shall follow that best of kings, illustrious and successful, as if he had attained heaven itself. And the virtuous and exceedingly energetic Viswamitra, thus assured by the celestials, said in the midst of the saints, Ye gods, excellent well. Then, after the sacrifice had concluded, the high-souled celestials and the saints of ascetic wealth went to their respective regions, O foremost of men. Section 61. And, O puissant one, seeing those saints gone, the highly energetic Viswamitra addressed those inhabitants of the forest, saying, A mighty disturbance hath happened in regard to the southern quarter, let us therefore repairing to another region, carry on austerities. Ye high-souled ones, in the west there are extensive tracts, and there in Pushkara will we peaceably carry on our austerities. That asylum is really pleasant. Having said this, that exceedingly energetic and mighty Muni began to perform terrible austerities subsisting on fruits and roots. And it came to pass that at this time that mighty lord of Ayodhya, Amvarish, prepared for celebrating a sacrifice. And as he was sacrificing, Indra stole away his sacrificial beast. And on the beast being stolen, the priest said unto the king, O king, the beast hath been stolen away, and it hath been lost through thy dereliction. And, O Lord of men, his own fault destroyeth the king that faileth to protect the subjects. And, O best of men, even this is the expiation, do thou, while the ceremony lasts, speedily bring back the beast, or bring a man, in its stead. Hearing the priest's words, that highly intelligent king began to range various countries and provinces, cities, forests, and holy asylums, searching for the beast, with 1,000 kin, as the price thereof. And O child, it came to pass that arriving at Brigutunga, he beheld Richika seated there in company with his wife and sons, O descendant of Raghu. And bowing unto that Brahmarshi flaming in asceticism, and propitiating him, the exceedingly energetic royal saint of unparalleled effulgence having enquired as to his complete welfare, addressed Richika, saying, O highly pious one, O Brigu's son, if, in order that I may have a substitute for my sacrificial beast, thou sell thy son, my desire I shall attain. I have ranged every country, but the beast I do not find. Therefore, it behoveth thee to part with one of thy sons for price. Thus addressed the exceedingly energetic Richika replied, O best of men, my firstborn I will in no wise dispose of. Hearing the words of the high-souled Richika, their mother spoke unto that foremost of men, Ambarish, saying, the worshipful son of Bhrigu hath said that his firstborn cannot be disposed of. Do thou, O Lord, also know that the youngest, Sunaka, is my favorite. Therefore my youngest son will I not give unto thee. O foremost of men, the eldest sons are generally the best beloved of their fathers, and the youngest, of their mothers, therefore the youngest I would retain. And when the ascetic as well as his wife had spoken thus, the second son, Sunsva, or Rama, himself said, my father would not sell the eldest, nor my mother the youngest, therefore I consider even the second as disposable. Do thou then, O prince, take me. When that one versed in the Veda had ended, that lord of men, O mighty armed descendant of Raghu, taking possession of Sunsva, by paying kotis of kin, and heaps of jewels, and gold and silver by hundreds and thousands, went away exceedingly delighted. And that royal saint, the exceedingly energetic and highly famous Ambarish, placing Sunsva on his car, speedily set out. Section 62. And, O foremost of men, taking Sunsva, that illustrious king at noon rested in Pushkara, O descendant of Raghu. And having arrived at the excellent Pushkara, as the king was resting, the famous Sunsva with an aggrieved heart saw his maternal uncle Viswamitra in company with some saints engaged in asceticism. Thereupon, with a woe-begone countenance, and sore afflicted with fatigue and thirst, he, or Rama, flung himself into Viswamitra's lap, and said, I have neither father, nor mother, nor relatives, nor friends anywhere. It therefore behoves thee, O gentle one, to save me in the interests of virtue, O foremost of ascetics. And, O best of men, thou art the protector of all, and their refuge. May the king have his desire, and may I at the same time, attaining long life, and undeteriorating, gain heaven, having performed meritorious austerities. Do thou with a delighted heart become a lord unto me that am without one. And, O righteous one, even as a father rescueth a son, do thou deliver me from this peril. Hearing his words, Viswamitra of mighty austerities, pacifying him by every means, spoke unto his sons, saying, that in view of which fathers beget well-wishing sons, the compassing of welfare in the next world, is at hand. This youthful son of the ascetic craveth my protection. Do ye, sons, accomplish my desire by saving his life. Ye are all of virtuous deeds, ye are all engaged in the observance of righteousness, do ye confer satisfaction upon Agni by one of ye becoming the sacrificial beast of the Lord of men. Thus Sunsva will obtain protection, the sacrifice will be freed from hindrance, the deities will be propitiated, and finally my word will be made good. Hearing the ascetic's words, his sons, Madhuchachanda and others, O foremost of men, haughtily and tauntingly answered, O Lord, how, neglecting thy own sons, thou desirest to deliver that of another. This we consider as heinous, ever, like unto eating one's own flesh. Hearing this speech of his sons, that best of anchorets, with eyes reddened with anger, said, disregarding my words, ye have uttered this audacious and shocking speech, disclaimed by morality, and capable of causing one's hair to stand on end. Therefore, becoming mushtikas, and living on dog's flesh, do ye all, even like Vasishtha's sons, inhabit the earth for 1,000 years. Having cursed his sons, that best of ascetics then, by all means cheering up the distressed Sunsva as to his protection, addressed him, saying, "Do thou donning on a zone made of kusa, and wearing a garland of red flowers, and bedaubing thy person with red sandal paste, hymn Agni with mantras, approaching the Vaishnava sacrificial stake, and, O ascetic's son, at the same time, chant these two verses in that sacrifice of Ambarish. Then thou wilt attain success." Thereupon, with a concentrated mind securing those two verses, Sunsva speedily presented himself before that leonine monarch, saying, "O lion of a king, O thou endued with high intelligence, let us without delay repair hence. And, O foremost of monarchs, do thou engage in the sacrifice and commence upon the initiation." Hearing those words of the ascetic's son, the king, filled with delight, readily at once repaired to the sacrificial ground. And with the consent of his court, the king fastened Sunsva with a kusa cord, and investing him with a crimson apparel, tethered him to the stake as the sacrificial beast. And, being bound to the stake, the ascetic's son first of all duly hymned Agni, and next those deities, Indra and his younger brother. Thereupon, gratified with the excellent eulogy, the thousand-eyed Vyasa conferred upon Sunsva long life. And, O foremost of men, that king also, having completed the sacrifice, obtained the manifold fruit thereof through the grace of the thousand-eyed deity, O Rama. And, O best of men, the righteous Viswamitra of mighty asceticism again carried on austerities at Pushkara for 1000 years. Section 63. And when the 1000 years had been completed and the mighty ascetic had accomplished his vow, the celestials in a body desirous of conferring upon him the fruit thereof, appeared before him. And the exceedingly effulgent Brahma addressed him in soothing words, saying, "Thou art henceforth a saint, good unto thee, and this eminence thou hast attained through thy own laudable exertions." Having spoken thus unto him, the Lord of Celestials returned to heaven. And Viswamitra of mighty energy became again engaged in rigid austerities. And, O foremost of men, it came to pass that after a long lapse of time that prime of Apsaras, Menka, was at that time performing her ablutions in Pushkara, and she was observed by Kusika's son, like unto lightning among clouds. And coming under the control of Gandharva, the anchoret spoke unto her, saying, "O Apsari, hath thy journey been a pleasant one? Do thou abide in my asylum. Do thou favor me, for, good betide thee, I have been rendered senseless by Madana." Thus addressed, that one of shapely hips began to dwell there. And mighty was the hindrance that befell Viswamitra as regarded his asceticism, as she, or Raghava, staying in that asylum of his, pleasantly spent 5 and 5 years, O gentle one. And after this period had gone by, overwhelmed with shame and afflicted with anxiety and grief, the mighty ascetic Viswamitra impatiently thought, O son of Raghu, that all this mighty loss of austerities was the work of the celestials. And deprived of his senses by lust, the decade had passed away imperceptibly as if it were one day and night, and this impediment stood in the way of his austerities. And heaving a sigh, that best of ascetics burned in repentance, and with sweet words, renouncing the terrified and trembling Menka standing with damped hands, Kusika's son, Viswamitra, O Kama, went to the northern mountains. And practicing the brahmacharya mode of life with the intention of subduing lust, that highly famous one engaged in arduous austerities on the banks of the Kaushiki. And as he was thus engaged in profound austerities on the northern mountain, 1000 years, O Rama passed away. Then taking counsel together, the celestials and the saints appeared before Brahma, saying, "Let Kusika's son obtain the title of Maharshi." Hearing the words of the celestials, the grandsire of all addressed the ascetic Viswamitra, in these sweet words, "O mighty saint, hast thou had a pleasant journey? Satisfied with thy fierce austerities, O Kaushika, I confer upon thee the eminence of the foremost saintship." Hearing Brahma's speech, the anchoret Viswamitra bowing down thus answered the grandsire with clasped hands, "The incomparable title of Brahmarshi is to be won by performing sterling works. And since thou hast not addressed me by that title, it appears that I have not yet succeeded in subduing my senses." Thereupon Brahma said unto him, "Do thou exert thyself until thou conquer thy senses." Saying this, Brahma went to heaven. And when the celestials had gone, the mighty ascetic, Viswamitra, with upraised arms, and without any support, and subsisting on air, began to perform penances. And in summer, the ascetic surrounded himself with 5 fires, and in rains remained in an uncovered place, and in winter day and night stood submerged in water. Thus passed by 1,000 years of terrible penances. And on the mighty ascetic Viswamitra being engaged in austerities, great was the agitation that exercised the celestials and Vyasa, in particular. And Sakra together with the Maruts spoke unto Ramba these words, fraught with weal unto himself, and woe unto Kaushika. Section 64. O Ramba, this mighty service thou wilt have to perform in the interest of the celestials, even to take Kaushika with the witchery of love. Thus addressed by the intelligent thousand-eyed deity, the Apsari, or Rama, with clasped palms, thus bashfully answered the chief of the celestials, O Lord of the celestials, this mighty ascetic, Viswamitra, is a terrible person, and, without doubt, he will, O Divine One, waxing wroth, curse me. And O God, even this is my fear, and therefore it behoveth thee to favor me. Thus apprehensively addressed by her in fear, the thousand-eyed one answered that damsel trembling and staying with clasped hands, "Never fear, O Ramba, good unto thee. Do thou perform my bidding. Assuming the form of a quail, captivating the heart, I will in this spring crowned with graceful trees, stay by thy side in company with Kandap. And do thou adding unto thy beauty, divers blandishments bewitch this ascetic, Kusika's son, O gentle one." Hearing Indra's words, that comely damsel of luminous smiles, heightening her charms exceedingly, inspired Viswamitra with desire. And he listened to the mellifluous strains of the quail, and with a delighted heart, he beheld the fair one. Anon, listening to the warbling of the quail and her own incomparable singing, as well as beholding Ramba, the ascetic began to entertain doubts. And knowing for certain that it was the thousand-eyed deity who had devised all that, that foremost of anchorets, Kusika's son, overwhelmed with anger, cursed Ramba, saying, "Since, O Ramba, thou endeavourest to seduce me who is bent upon subduing his anger and lust, thou shalt, O luckless one, remain as a stone for 10,000 years. And a highly energetic Brahmana equipped with ascetic energy, will, O Ramba, deliver thee, stained because of my ire." Thus said that exceedingly energetic and mighty ascetic Viswamitra, and was filled with remorse, unable to contain his anger of heart. And in consequence of his mighty curse, Ramba was turned into a stone. Hearing the curse of the mighty saint, both Kandap and Indra left the place. And, O Rama, on account of his anger, and his sense remaining still unsubdued, he found no rest from deterioration of ascetic merit. And coming by decrease of ascetic merit, he thought within himself, "No more shall I suffer anger to exercise me, nor will I ever say anything to any. And I shall not breathe for 100 years, and controlling my sense, I shall dry up my body. And so long as I do not attain Brahmanahut as earned by my austerities, I shall suspending my breath and abstaining from food, stay for a long lapse of time. And engaged in austerities, my form will not undergo any deterioration." That foremost of ascetics bound himself by this unparalleled vow to lead a life of such self-denial. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.